Welcome to today's Energy Central webcast entitled Strategizing the Role of Bring Your Own Device in Your Demand Management Program. A few housekeeping notes we'd like to mention. For best results in viewing this presentation, we recommend using a wired high-speed internet connection, as wireless connections can be unpredictable. If you cannot get adequate sound from your computer speakers, you may dial into the audio portion using the telephone number listed in the right-hand panel of your interface under the audio section. Following the presentation, we'll have a brief question and answer period. You may submit your questions at any time using the interface on your screen. I'm happy to introduce today's speakers. On the floor today, we have Robert Warden, Vice President, Partnerships and Alliances for Converge, and also Caroline Stickle, Energy Select Team Lead at Gulf Power Company. Now I'm happy to turn the floor and the controls over to our first speaker, Bob Warden. Bob, welcome to the event. You have the floor.
Thanks, PJ, and thanks for the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to our second webinar on the topic of Bring Your Own Device. For those listening who are less familiar with Converge, we've been implementing utility demand management programs for a long time, and were recently ranked the industry's #1 DR vendor by Navigant. For nearly 2 decades, Converge has deployed millions of devices representing over 6,000 megawatts under control. We've enrolled 1.8 million consumers in demand response programs on behalf of our utility customers and successfully dispatched millions of events. We work with about 500 utilities, including some of the smaller rural cooperatives and some of the largest investor-owned utilities. We've built our reputation on 2 things: consistently delivering capacity megawatts that utilities count on for critical peak operations, and pay-for-performance contracts based on our delivering results. We're bringing the same quality, reliability, and results to innovative utility programs leveraging Bring Your Own Devices, or I may just say BYOD through the rest of this seminar. In today's webinar, I will talk about market drivers and utility challenges using customer-owned devices, where BYOD fits in the big picture, and some key considerations shaping what this may look like in the utility of the future. Then I will hand it over to Caroline to update you on Gulf Power's Energy Select program. Let's jump into today's presentation and talk about what's driving Bring Your Own Device market from 3 perspectives. First and foremost, there's an opportunity for utilities to provide more choices and more comfort to their customers and better control during events. At the same time, increase the amount of capacity utility has under control. The goal is to design new programs for both energy savings and peak savings that allow the utility to manage almost every residence. In addition to comfort and convenience from Wi-Fi thermostats, many people are eager for a trusted energy advisor who helps them save money and live greener. This represents opportunity for utilities to engage with their customers, to enhance their DR and EE programs, and to scale to a large number of residences. A lot of companies are jumping on the Internet of Things bandwagon with smart devices and sexy apps. But most companies are struggling to figure out how to please their customers and please utilities at the same time. Everyone wants to get free money from the utility, but very few smart devices understand what actually delivers value to the grid in terms of capacity, energy, and balance. Let's eliminate all the free riders. The key is working with a partner that knows utilities and knows how to fully value device contributions and knows how to structure pay for performance. Traditional utility programs are designed to meet targets the Public Utility Commission placed on the utility. The utility wants direct control over enough capacity to eliminate the peak grid hours. Traditionally, DR had a day-ahead notice for critical events that usually occurred on a few hottest days of the year. EE and DR programs were treated separately since one provided energy savings and the other solved capacity issues. Today, there are a number of regulatory forces pushing more distributed energy generation like rooftop solar. The resulting variability in supply and demand heightens concerns about potentially causing two-way power flows for the utility. This in turn drives DR management systems to provide many more real-time updates to help the utility maintain control. And all the important issues of safety, reliability, security, customer satisfaction must be met in this new set of distributed operations as well. Consumers are purchasing their own Wi-Fi thermostats, provide an opportunity, but only if they give the utility access to the devices they already own. It's a fast-changing environment, and it demands a strategic answer. In the first BYOD webinar in May, our experts shared 5 key points utilities need to know in order to leverage third-party devices instead of getting locked out by them. First, bring your own device programs benefit both utilities and third-party device vendors. Utilities want to get new customers in DR programs and want to use Wi-Fi devices for fast dispatch and feedback updates. And third-party device vendors want to get paid for access to their customers' homes. Second, some devices come with limitations. Some vendors provide data access and allow control over individual devices, while other vendors will dispatch load for an entire group of devices and only provide summary results. Third, utilities should be the ones to set the rules. Utilities are responsible for serving all the customers in a territory, complying with regulation, and meeting cost-effectiveness mandates and overall system reliability. Therefore, the utility needs to make sure that a BYOD program has the right rules and right incentives in place, including payments that are based on performance and real value delivered. Fourth, BYOD can deliver demand response, energy efficiency, and customer engagement benefits. BYOD programs do more than just enhance DR. EE and customer engagement are natural additions that improve cost effectiveness. Finally, utilities should be involved from the start. Utilities want new design thinking and marketing paradigms for working alongside BYOD providers and should be involved early in the process. Today, the worst case scenario is one that results from utility inaction. By doing nothing, utilities are at risk to sell less energy with no rate recovery and reduce chances of becoming meaningfully engaged with their customers. Fortunately, there's a better way. The future of utility energy delivery might look something like this to a consumer. As you can see, we don't believe the trend of customer-owned devices goes away, nor replaces the utility's need to engage consumers directly. Rather, it makes it more urgent that the utility stays connected to their customers. When a consumer is engaged and incented to purchase their own devices, DR and EE programs can become linked in a complementary way. We can enroll owners' devices in many grid-responsive programs and provide enhanced apps with utility-sponsored energy savings to optimize return on investment for everyone. We urge device manufacturers to provide the utility with the data and control access they need to maximize the grid impact, while we commit to building and providing a BYOD utility marketplace to fully value new insights and applications for connected device providers. Learning from the device data is key to targeting efficiency investments, adapting control for individual residences, and predicting the load impact the device will have on the grid in real time. So we place a high priority on incenting consumers to purchase the right devices that will become most useful to the utility. By the same token, paying manufacturers for all the grid benefits delivered rather than just a toll for access. BYOD, the big picture. I use the word devices to refer to a wide range of energy consuming, producing, and storing devices connected to the grid. In addition to Wi-Fi thermostats, we see water heaters, pool pumps, EV chargers, even retail stores and office buildings being connected for smarter energy consumption. Consumer interest in solar and storage at the residential and community levels is creating another opportunity for utilities to manage distributed energy resources. We believe the best way forward is to integrate a variety of customer-owned devices with all of the utility operations and workflows needed to create distributed energy resources. That could be community solar generation programs, water heaters for thermal storage, EV chargers and batteries for local balancing, and perhaps others we're yet to see. This broad approach to bring your own devices could transform customer-owned devices into a utility resource that can be used in everyday operations or several times a day. This will create a much more connected utility. Devices could be an operational resource even if the source is BYOD. Ultimately, we want the utility control room to see and control the grid impact of consumer-owned devices too. I'm proposing a software platform that allows distributed energy resources to evolve while at the same time supporting a partnership with utility EE and DR programs. We believe this is best done by the utility in an enterprise-level platform to address their unique grid constraints and operations workflow. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for utilities. The grid problems a utility has to solve are more nuanced and more location-specific with a significant number of distributed energy resources. The most value is created by integrating programs that enhance learning, targeting, scaling, and operating, and that is what leads us to a new approach. We start with engaging the consumer with breakthrough marketing using a consistent digital media strategy across multiple programs. Insights are built by data analytics, learning from data found in smart devices, and combined with utility customer-specific data. Distribution operations may require targeting particular areas or load pockets to avoid major infrastructure investment. And local grid balance may require different control strategies throughout the day to cover a long 8-hour peak. The control room could use a portfolio of connected devices as an operating resource, such as using distributed solar in the mid-afternoon and applying distributed load control strategies late in the day. To do this, the control room must be able to see the load forecast and receive results updates in near real time. Finally, cost-effectively scaling to a large percentage of residences enables resources to be offered into emerging wholesale markets for energy capacity and ancillary services. The bottom line is, we're expecting BYOD to augment utility DR and EE programs, not replace them. We want to avoid multiple program offers that can be confusing for consumers. Instead, incorporating BYOD into existing utility program designs, giving customers a choice of thermostats. At the same time, advanced utility apps with usage comparisons, tips, and thermostat schedule insights that allow the utility to get a return on helping customers save money and live greener. All the communications, control, and telemetry data can be accessed through a single interface and fully integrated with ongoing utility operations. Consumers get more personalized services, while utilities get more cost-effective DR and EE programs and targeted where they need it. Integrated forecast and optimized dispatch enable the control room to deliver quality megawatts from this portfolio of devices. Everything should be available in a single contract with a single point of accountability for results. So in summary, BYOD is about much more than just connecting thermostats. It's about new design thinking and new marketing paradigms to get the most value from integrating utility operations and programs. It's a strategic investment to connect a utility to its customers' distributed energy resources. Demand response can evolve into an operational resource, and customer-owned devices are here to stay. BYOD can either help the utility build trusted relationships with their customers or allow them to become a customer of someone else. And now I'll pass the microphone over to Caroline Stickle, a longtime friend of Converge and team lead for Gulf Power's award-winning and incredibly successful Energy Select program. Caroline, you have the floor.
Thanks, Bob, and good afternoon or good morning to each of you listening in today. I appreciate the opportunity to share the utilities perspective on BYOD with you. So let me start by giving you a little bit of information on who Gulf Power is. We're an investor-owned utility and part of the Southern Company. We serve Northwest Florida and currently have about 449,000 customers. About 87% of those are residential. I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about Energy Select's past and present, because I think that will make the discussion about where we're headed with BYOD more meaningful. So our background: for years, Gulf Power has been a leader in energy efficiency programs. Good Sense Home was actually a concept that we introduced in the mid-70s, and years later, when the Florida Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act Conservation Act was enacted, the standards for a Good Sense Home were even higher than what the state was recommending at the time. Another radical and truly innovative program that was in development in the late 80s and in 1989 was actually introduced was Transtext, which was the precursor to Energy Select and was first presented as a concept to the Florida Public Service Commission back then. Transtext, and this is right from some of their marketing material, was described as an interactive demand-side management system that allows residential customers to conveniently and automatically control central heating and cooling systems and electric water heaters and appliances in response to changing price signals that reflect the utility's varying costs of producing and providing electricity. Ooh, all in one breath. So from humble beginnings, we've seen what started as Transtext become Good Sense Select, and finally our current program, which is Energy Select with broadband communications. During this evolution, we saw our partnership with Converge develop and a series of equipment upgrades which took us from bulky T-stats and large gateways installed on the customer's meters to sleeker T-stats, small digital gateways in the home, and the ability to do all programming from a computer or smart device. I do want to point out a very important part about our program. Back in the early 90s, when Florida was looking heavily at peak load management, and many of our fellow utilities in the state were putting in direct load control, Gulf took a bold stand and decided we were not going to use direct load control. We felt that the program we already had in place could be used as part of our peak load management strategy, and we were able to convince the Commission that there was price elasticity when it came to power usage, and through our program, customers would react to a signal and reduce demand at those times when it was most needed. And that's been proved over and over. So our future looks bright and busy. Next year, we will launch the next vintage of our program with Direct Link, which will streamline the equipment even more with all communications happening via Wi-Fi, and give our customers an even better programming experience with a new portal and more functionality from mobile devices. In addition, we will pilot the Bring Your Own Device concept, so we are already gearing up here for an exciting 2016. Let me give you a few stats on our program so you have a feel for the scale and how it's helping us reduce demand at critical times. As of this morning, we have 16,017 customers participating on the Energy Select program. With a winter factor of 2.4 kW per customer and a summer factor of 1.7 kW per customer, we have the potential to reduce demand by approximately 27 to 38 megawatts, depending on the season, during our peak demand times. Throughout our history, we've maintained very high customer satisfaction scores. In our most recent survey, completed last year, 93% of our customers were satisfied with the program, with 57% rating us in the top 2 boxes as extremely satisfied. And we've been recognized for years in the industry, and most recently have received the 2013 Power Grid International Project of the Year Award and the 2015 Smart Grid Customer Education Award. So a little specifics about the program. In its current state, our program consists of 4 elements that work together, including a price-responsive programmable thermostat and timers, the Energy Select rate, which consists of a low, medium, high, and critical rate, and the low and medium rates are in effect 87% of the time. And those particular rates, the low and medium, are lower than our standard residential rate. It also has the communications gateway and then an online programming portal. So that's the four elements at this point. Once we introduce Direct Link next year, the picture gets simpler because we'll do away with the need for the gateway. What we have always maintained is that consistent evolution along with customer focus will keep us relevant and successful. To us, the consistent evolution means we stay true to the original objectives of the program, which were reduce generation needs, better use existing capacity, and enhance customer satisfaction and value. By doing that, we've reaped consistent results, which met all those objectives. Combine that, along with a customer focus that follows the principles of designing a program where the customer can win, designing a program where if the customer wins, the company wins, and keeping our message and mission clear and consistent, we've been able to sustain and grow our participation for years. So as we look to the future, as we strive to stay relevant in a rapidly changing world, we recognize that Energy Select is more than just devices. It is a concept that customers are naturally attracted to. This concept of being able to save money by using power at times when prices are lower. Up to now, Energy Select has provided the means to react to those changing prices by installing programmable thermostats and timers and provide online programming functionality. But what if the customers just replace their HVAC system and they don't want to give up their nice new programmable T-staff that came with it? Why shouldn't they be able to take advantage of the rate? Well, they should. So enter the Bring Your Own Concept device. As we begin looking at BYOD, we identified our objectives as such. Primarily, we want to explore the technical feasibility of a TOU rate coupled with customer-owned Wi-Fi communicating programmable thermostat. Secondarily, we want to test the overall acceptance of the concept and the satisfaction with the portal. And then for us here, we would like to also take a look at what does this typical demand and energy look like for our pilot participants versus what it looks like for our traditional Energy Select customers. Some of the major considerations we're addressing: application development, and you have to think of the communications in the background. You have to consider that we're going to need an administrative portal so that you can schedule events and whatnot. Then you've got the customer portal to consider. Are you going to use the vendor portal, or are you going to use your current utility contractor portal, which is what our customers are using right now? Also, field visits, will they be necessary? if the customer has their own T-stat but possibly wants timers, are we going to require the customer to buy those timers, or may that be a little side business that we continue to have that kind of equipment on hand? Obviously, you have to consider marketing and recruiting. Is the vendor, if we were to go with a BYOD program that used Honeywell thermostats as the pilot, would we want Honeywell to go after our customers by saying, hey, there's a program at Gulf Power that will make this programmable thermostat you bought even more beneficial for you? So does Honeywell do that recruiting, or do we do it in conjunction with possibly the help from Honeywell, and we go after those customers? And then also you have customer service considerations. When a customer needs programming help, are they going to call the T-stat vendor, excuse me, or are they going to call your typical customer service center to help with those kind of things? So those are some of the things that we're looking at. And of course, considerations for a short-term pilot may be different from what you have for a permanent program. So we're already kind of looking at past the pilot program, what will be different as far as processes and the way we do things. Some of the benefits we believe we'll see have to do with overcoming some of the barriers that we have typically found, and they may not all be overcome, but it might ease some of them. So some of those are cost. Right now we have equipment costs, we have installation labor and maintenance costs, and we have local office costs with the group that actually is here in town that goes out and does all the servicing for us. We also have a little more compatibility. Right now we have some units that are highly efficient and they don't work well with our thermostat, or the customer would rather use their own thermostat. So some of those incompatibilities get solved with a BYOD program. In addition, some of the standards and protocols that are set up as a result of what we have going right now, when you start opening things up to bring in many vendors, the open protocol comes into play. So you may get rid of some of those barriers that you've had to face in the past. We've also got to consider customer choice. Suddenly we have a whole new group of customers that can take advantage of a rate we've already had established, and the customers can decide, do I want to have my own equipment, or do I want to use the Gulf Power equipment? And finally, and there's plenty more things, but it does readily enable your TOU CPP capability. So let's go back and look at our program specifics. We had 4 to start with. Direct Link brings us down to 3. And then BYOD not only gets rid of the gateway, but it gets rid of the thermostat. So our program is getting more and more simple. We're streamlining processes. We're reducing costs while growing customers on a program that still helps us meet our original objectives. So we believe that BYOD is the next natural evolution of technology for a program like ours and is our future. Embracing the technological progression is enabling us to keep our program relevant. And we're not alone in our thinking. Along with the technology, our marketplace is evolving. Smart grid, the constant call for demand response, energy efficiency, and green initiatives, along with the recently adopted Clean Power Plan, are going to shape many of our decisions regarding how we serve our customers. The demand for and acceptance of TOU rates and programs has never been higher. Here are just a few recent items. The Public Service Commissions in New York, Massachusetts, California are calling for mandatory TOU rates. Recent article in Utility Guide was SUMD, SMUD. Time of use is the future of our rate design. Demand response is how the smart grid will save us billions. That was a recent article in Forbes. So where are we going to be? One thing is certain, continued success is no accident. It takes hard work and vision. We have to understand that change is inevitable. Continuous self-evaluation and evolution is a must. We have to stay very in tune to our customers' expectations. We've got to have technical flexibility. We can't say any longer, or it's not going to cut it to say, we don't do it that way, or we've never done it that way in the past. We've got to be flexible, and we've got to stay relevant. So let's take a little look at some evolving technology and what's next beyond BYOD. Let's quickly look at an evolving technology. Remember the first cell phone. It was big, it was ugly, it was heavy, and it primarily did one thing, allow us to make calls. But as technology changed, we got the compact little flip phone, which added the ability for us to search the internet and send text messages. Today, most of us are using this. We can do everything with our smartphones that we could do with previous versions of the cell phone, but now we can pay bills, play music and games, and we could go on for hours. You can even control your door locks, lights, monitor what your dogs or babysitters are doing, manage your energy use, and detect if you have a water leak somewhere in your home. All this from your phone. If AT&T and other providers can get this kind of access into our customers' homes, why in the world aren't we out there offering the same thing? Well, we need to be, and we will be. That's all I have, but feel free to contact me at this information here on the slide. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about our program and where we're headed, and I will turn it back over to Bob.
Thanks, Caroline. We have a few minutes here, and I'd like to thank Caroline for your comments and insights, and also provide my information. It's been a great opportunity to present our thoughts on strategies for incorporating BYOD, but we'd really love to hear your thoughts, whether it's in a question now or feel free to contact us. We'd love to do a workshop with utilities to talk about your needs and evolving your programs. So with that, we've got a few questions have come in, and let me start with a few of them. So the first one, maybe it was the most obvious, was how much of a trend is this? How much of a trend is BYOD? I've spent a lot of time looking at this, and the first thing I want to say is it's not an easy question. I mean, it's fairly easy to get industry data on how many Wi-Fi thermostats are sold or by each supplier, but I don't think that's really the question. It's really an emerging trend that's only a few percentage of households have active Wi-Fi thermostats that are online and using mobile apps for engagement today. It's a little hard to tell how many of those thermostats sold are actually put online and actively used. We expect some fallout over time as Wi-Fi routers change and people move and things such as that. But it's an emerging trend, sort of moving past, I'd say we're at the end of the beginning, put it that way. Next question has come in. Can you discuss applicability of programs to a pre-AMI environment? Great question. Of course, in an AMI environment, you have the ability to create, you have the data to create a baseline for usage, calculate critical peak rebates, and the like. Now, Gulf Power's used an innovative approach by putting people on a time of use rate. So that's another answer. We could apply this to a pre-AMI environment if we can get enough data and access from the devices to provide the information to establish that baseline. So basically, if we can get the information working with device manufacturers on things like compressor runtime, set point, indoor temperature, and collect that telemetry information over time, even if we have to use an average compressor size over a territory, we get a pretty good estimate of what the impact is of an individual consumer. And of course, if you can incent consumers to send you a picture of their compressor nameplate or something, there you go. You're able to calculate it exactly. Another question for Gulf Power. For the pilot, what is your target sample size and what is the criteria for sample selection? Caroline, do you want to take a cut at that?
Sure, Bob. I think, and we haven't come down to all of the specifics yet, we would like to have several hundred, up to 400 in the pilot, just because that gives you good statistical, reliable data. What was the second part of the question?
What was the target sample size and the criteria for sample selection?
Okay, and the criteria is really going to depend on the final decision as to, do we go ahead and work with customers who already have, say it's a Honeywell. Will we go through Honeywell and they say, we know you have in your service territory X number of folks out there who have a Honeywell thermostat that would work with your program. It may kind of be forced by that, and that's probably the way we would prefer to do it, is to go after people that already have it versus trying to decide, okay, who are we going to target? And I think that's kind of how we're leaning. That's not to say, though, that at some point we decide, well, we're going to go ahead and target some group of customers based on customer segmentation that we think might do the best in this type of program, whether that's your technology savvy type folks, or whether it's the folks that are really looking to save the most money. So certainly we'll consider customer segmentation if we decide to target, but we haven't gotten quite that far yet.
Thanks, Caroline. We've got another question for you, and that is, what does the incentive structure look like for the customer? In this case, I think they're talking about your rate structure.
Right, right. And currently, I explained a little bit about it, but our standard residential rate right now is 11.7 cents per kWh. So with the Energy Select 4-tiered rate, you have a low rate of 8.5 cents, you have a medium rate of 9.8 cents, which is lower than the 11.7 cents that our standard customers are paying. And those two low rates are in effect 87% of the hours, the annual hours in the that are out there for customers to be using power. The high price is 17.7 cents, and those are obviously at those high times in the summer when we have the most demand, and in the winter when we have the most demand, that point in the day when the cost is the highest. So we have this high price of 17.7 cents. The critical cost, and fortunately, obviously the equipment is all set up so that they can not worry about when a critical goes into effect, because they should have everything programmed such that it will automatically turn everything off or react to the price. But our critical price is 72.2 cents per kWh. Criticals don't come along very often. We average 6 a year, but there have been years when we haven't had any at all. So it really does not impact a customer's bill very much, very often. And because of the lower prices, the incentive is really in that low and medium pricing tier, because you can do so much within that 87% of the time and save money. So the incentive is, if you use the program the way it's designed, hopefully your bill is going to be lower, and so there's your incentive.
Thanks, Caroline. Well, one last quick question. Is Gulf currently AMI enabled?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Great. A couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. Are manufacturers willing to share customer data for us to know how many of their thermostats there are in our zip codes? I've worked with a lot of manufacturers. A big part of my job is going out and creating partnerships with all of these connected device manufacturers. And in general, the answer is yes. They're absolutely willing to work with us, both in terms of direct marketing programs to existing accounts who have mobile applications, Wi-Fi thermostats, etc., and can break it down by zip code. We then match that to service territory of utility and have a pretty good idea of what the potential pool is to recruit from. Now, not everyone's going to sign up in response to a manufacturer email, so it's very important to get the consistent message out there of how to join the utilities program. Another question came in. To what extent is increasing the number of supported thermostat providers a benefit versus a cost to the BYOD program in terms of technology integrations and program management for the vendor and utility? Again, let me take a cut at this. A lot of questions coming in around cost. You know, that's a very good point. The whole idea is to support customer choice. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know the optimal answer to the number of choices a customer needs. Every thermostat integration comes with a cost. Converge is stepping up to do those integrations and work with vendors to create this utility BYOD marketplace. We think it's important to reward device manufacturers and build an alliance with them where they're helping the utility create new innovative value and participating in it. This is not a we versus they scenario. So I guess that maybe the answer is yes, it is a cost. It's not clear yet how many choices you need, and that's something we're going to monitor carefully as we test these programs and test consumer response to make sure we have every category covered. But I don't think it's about who has the most connections to the most different type of thermostats. All right. We've got lots of questions that come in on cost, and I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone. If we didn't get to your question, we're going to write them down and respond to you, and would love to have you reach out and let us know your thoughts. My information's available, Caroline's available, and we'd be delighted to have a call or workshop with you. We'd love to hear what you think. So I want to thank everyone for attending, and let me hand it back to PJ to close out the webinar.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks, Caroline. Fantastic presentation. For our audience, we hope you've enjoyed today's discussion. As you log off, please take a moment to complete our survey and give us your feedback so we can continue to provide you with quality content. Thank you for attending, and this concludes today's presentation.